Tanse, I'm Kristen Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. November 8th is known in the grassroots community as Indigenous Veterans Day, and today a ceremony held at the Niganan Center in Winnipeg. At this hour, the formalities should be wrapping up and lunch is now being served. T.R. Wheatley joins us live from the ceremony with the First Nations Veterans Coordinator of the Southern Chiefs Organization. T.R.
Thank you. So it was on November 8, 1994 that this day was chosen to honor Indigenous veterans here in Manitoba. Now, 30 years ago, many veterans felt isolated because they weren't invited to mainstream events. Since then, it's grown to be recognized nationally. Joining me here is Justin Woodcock. He's the First Nations Veterans Coordinator with SCO. Thanks, Justin. Let's talk a bit about the ceremony earlier today. What happened here?
Yeah, we came together to recognize the distinct, courageous acts of bravery of our First Nation war soldiers, but also to recognize the distinct inequalities they faced when they returned home to Canada.
Yeah, you were saying that they were denied being able to put their wreath down with everybody else.
Yeah, this day originated in regards to our First Nation veterans being denied the ability to lay their wreath at the National War Memorial in 1991. And out of that denial, this day arose that we needed a day for ourselves to recognize our own sacrifices and service.
Yeah, and Justin, you're starting a digital campaign with SCO. Can you tell me a bit about that, please?
Yeah, the First Nation Veteran Program at Southern Chiefs Organization is launching a digital campaign to recognize the honor, service, and sacrifice of our First Nation warriors in our nations. So we have a SCO Wall of Honor where we recognize all their service in summary of their service on our wall, but we've also been posting each one from our Wall of Honor on our social media to raise that awareness so people know that there's warriors in their community and the sacrifices that they gave.
Sounds like a great opportunity, Justin. You're also having a summit for the veterans coming up on November 20th. Can you talk about what's happening there?
Yeah, it's a provincial scale veteran summit. We're getting veterans all across the province to get together, honor their service, recognize their sacrifice, and also to look back on the year of the First Nation Veteran Program at SCO. The First Nation Veteran Program at SCO is the first of its kind in Canada. It provides full wraparound support to First Nation veterans. No other place in Canada is providing this, and we're really proud of the work we're doing.
You know, you're also, actually, let's talk about now. Earlier this week, the Manitoba government, they had their second reading of a private member's bill to officially mark this day as Indigenous Veterans Day here in our province. What does that mean to you, and as well as to the veterans that you work with?
It means a lot to me to see the NDP MLA David Pancrantz reach out in regards to consulting on the language of the bill, and his real passion towards recognizing our veterans really resonated with me, and it made me really feel recognized and honored, and I'm really grateful for the work that's been done.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more, let's elaborate here, we have a little bit more time, on some of that work. You said this is the first of its kind you're doing? Yeah,
the First Nation Veteran Program at SCO is the first First Nation program that provides service delivery to First Nation veterans. We provide veteran affairs claim support, we host monthly gatherings to recognize their service and their sacrifice, and we assist even families getting military headstones. If there's a First Nation veteran out there that needs support, we're here for them.
All right, thank you for speaking with me today. You know, I will have more for some of you, well, for those of you that are at home later on our evening news. Back to you, Kristen.
Thank you, TR. And we'll have more on Indigenous Veterans Day in our evening newscast with Dennis Ward. To Regina, Saskatchewan now, where some Remembrance Day ceremonies kicked off a little earlier this week. Ceremonies that honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice. CTV's Mick Favel has more.
Students and staff, former and present military members and law officers remembering and celebrating Indigenous veterans at a special ceremony at the First Nations University of Canada. For Robin Cody, a retired member of the U.S. Navy, remembering the ones who came before is easy, as their sacrifices have helped shape Indigenous living today.
We do recognize the legacy of our grandfathers, that we do recognize the work that they put into our communities. And again, I just want to reiterate, if it wasn't for our veterans, we wouldn't have our great establishments.
Visitors to FNUNIV don't have to go far to see the impacts Indigenous veterans have had on the institution. The Big Teepee, which makes up the atrium, is named the First Nations Veterans Memorial Teepee, a tribute to the First Nations veterans who served in the Canadian and U.S. forces going back to World War I. For Faye Cody, the daughter of the late Tony Cody, it's a day to remember her father and the other veterans who played a part in the school's history.
He wanted this to be acknowledged. He wanted young people to understand what happened, like how the veterans were treated, and to feel pride that a lot of our First Nations people participated in the wars.
Downtown at the Renaissance Retirement Home, residents got a special performance from the Wascana Plains School Choir. During the ceremony, the wreath was laid down by Norman Johnson, a 101-year-old veteran of World War II. For him, he is happy the day to remember carries on and isn't forgotten.
Thankful that they do remember. It's quite so easy to forget, I guess, but I'm quite amazed that the Remembrance Day is carried on so well.
On Monday, November 11th, ceremonies are planned at Victoria Park and the Brandt Center. Mick Favel, CTV News, Regina.
November 7th marks exactly 1 year since 21-year-old Lonnie Chum died from a hit-and-run in Moose Factory, Ontario, and still no one has been found responsible. 3 months ago, the Ontario government offered a $50,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Now the reward has doubled to $100,000 thanks to the Moose Factory Cree Nation.
There was a lot of interviews being done this last few months since the 50,000 came out, the first one, and I'm sure that there'll be more with it after today. But there's still,
That is Robert Chum, the father of Lonnie Chum. He is organizing another community awareness walk for Lonnie this Saturday. On November 7th of last year, the Ontario Provincial Police say 21-year-old Lonnie Chum was walking on Jaban Street at 3 a.m. in Moose Factory when she was hit by a vehicle and left with critical injuries. She died in hospital. Police shared 2 pictures of 2 different pickup trucks, one of which they believe was involved in the fatal hit and run. Robert says this past year has been very hard on the family as they wait for police to find who is responsible.
in a small community, people talk. It's just the factuals that's got to be presented in order to press charges, and waiting for that is slow. But people have been talking, and they say it's a community member, and it's sad knowing that this person can walk around all year and not coming forward.
The killing of an Inuk man who has been shot by police Monday morning in Quebec's far north and is an example of systemic racism. That is according to Canada's Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anandasangri. Anandasangri released a statement on Thursday. In it, he said the killing of Joshua Papagatuk by Nunavut police is another example of how Indigenous people are impacted by the justice system. He called the death a painful and tragic loss for Joshua's family and all of Nunavut. He said changing the system must include Indigenous-led solutions. On Monday morning, Joshua Papagatuk was shot and killed by an officer with the Nunavut Police Service. His twin brother Garnet was also shot and seriously wounded. It happened in the town of Salouet when police were responding to a call about someone allegedly attempting to drive intoxicated. Quebec's independent police watchdog is investigating, but they were delayed from getting into the community by bad weather. In a statement, Anandasangri added, "This tragedy underscores the deeply rooted systemic racism within our criminal justice system, which continues to disproportionately impact Indigenous peoples. Real structural change is essential to address these injustices." APTN News will continue to bring you updates to this story. To Manitoba now, where the officers have been charged after a lengthy investigation by the Winnipeg Police Service's Professional Standards Unit. Between late October 2022 and early November of this year, Constable Elston Bostock, 47, allegedly engaged in theft of property, disclosure of confidential information, and obstruction of justice and police investigations. He has been a police service member for 21 years. At times, Bostock was allegedly aided by Constable Matthew Kadeniuk and Jonathan Kazuk, both WPS members, for 2 and 18 years respectively. In one instance last month, Bostock and Kadeniuk allegedly stole money valued under $5,000 while on duty. All three were released on a promise to appear in court and are on administrative leave.
You know, we are a large organization and we really strive for excellence in our organization. Regrettably, from time to time, members, you know, they act inappropriately or they violate the law. So in those instances, we do have systems that bring these things to our attention. So that's why we're here today. But when that does happen, we have a professional standards unit. We have IIU to ensure that there's accountability when these things occur.
A date has been set to begin searching the Prairie Green landfill in Winnipeg for the remains of at least 2 First Nations women. Melissa Robinson, who is part of the Search Oversight Committee, told APTN News that the search is slated to begin Monday, December 2nd. She says training for search technicians begins November 25th, and that the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs alone received 140 applications for the job. Leaders and community members from the Southern Ontario community of Amjinon First Nation were in Toronto on Thursday. They called on the provincial government to co-create a new path forward to address environmental injustices impacting them. Amjinon is located near the city of Sarnia, Ontario, in an area referred to as Chemical Valley, due to the dozens of industrial facilities operating nearby. During a press conference, Amjinon Chief Janelle Namabin says a state of emergency was declared this past April due to high levels of benzene in the air, which led to the hospitalization of community members. Chief Nabanan is also calling on the Ontario and Canadian governments to help solve the issue of toxic pollution and environmental racism.
Many people do have cancer. Respiratory is very large, dizziness, headaches. This was all leading up to which triggered our state of emergency. However, we do have a large number of people that do suffer from respiratory illnesses. And so our level that triggers children to remain indoors is with the understanding that they may already have a respiratory issue because of where we live.
Nunavut's premier survived a leadership review this week. We'll bring you an update on that when we come back in 3 minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. Nunavut's premier PJ Akiaruk survived a vote in the territorial legislature on Wednesday to cast him out of his position. Nunavut MLAs voted 10-8 to keep Akiaruk as premier. The motion to remove Akiaruk was put forward by Ivalik MLA Solomon Maliki on Monday. Maliki said there was a lack of transparency in Akiaruk's leadership. The motion was put forward while 3 MLAs were away from the legislature and unable to vote. Akiaruk said his government could improve, though he argued his cabinet had been accountable and goal-focused. The next Nunavut election will be held in October on 2025. November 7th is International Inuit Day in Winnipeg. The Tungasugut Inuit Center marked the day by hosting its grand opening at its new space in the North End. The nonprofit was established in 2017 to help the urban Inuit population in Manitoba transition to city life. On Thursday afternoon, dozens from the community gathered to tour the space, play games, and enjoy some country food. The event opened with a kudlik, lighting by an elder. Other festivities included throat singing and drum dancing. The new resource center is over 10 times as large as their previous 1,200 square foot space in Winnipeg's West End. Executive Director Nikki Komak-Suwats is important to host the grand opening on International Inuit Day.
International Inuit Day is a day where we can amplify Inuit voices, whether that's challenges or successes. And this is definitely a success for our community to have a space such as this. You know, we know that in order for changes to happen, we have to hear some of those challenges in order for those positive things to happen. And so for us to have our grand opening on a day like this is so meaningful, and it also educates other folks, other Canadians, that Inuit are Canadians as well. And so that's something that we've been working towards, changing that narrative as an urban Inuk.
The Winnipeg Street Census is officially in action. Since Wednesday, 200 volunteers have been conducting a point-in-time count of Winnipeg's homeless population. In addition to hearing their stories, volunteers gather information on the conditions that lead people to homelessness and where people are taking shelter. They also collect demographic data such as cultural background, sexuality, and past involvement in the child welfare system. The data is then used to inform government policy and community programs aimed at combating homelessness. The census is typically done over 24 hours, but this year it's been held over 4 days. End Homelessness Winnipeg CEO Jason Whitford explains why.
As has shown, homelessness has most likely increased in our city. We need to get to those different geographic locations. We need to take time. We can't be rushed when we engage with a person and hear their story. Perhaps at first engagement they may not be ready. Perhaps at the second contact they will be ready to tell their story. The 4 days will allow us a more comprehensive I think opportunity to gather those stories that are out there.
Peguis First Nation musician William Prince will be honored with a Canada's Walk of Fame award later this month. The annual Alan Slate Music Impact Honor Award celebrates Canadian musicians who inspire and drive positive impact in the music industry. The organization says Prince has used his voice to make a meaningful contribution to our collective legacy. That includes hosting Reconciliation Radio Show, A Day to Listen, and penning an original song for the 40th anniversary of Terry Fox's Marathon of Hope. Great Big Sea frontman Alan Doyle will honor Prince with a special performance of one of his songs during Canada's Walk of Fame celebration. That's scheduled to take place on November 20th in Toronto. We now want to tell you about this week's third web poll question. Over on our website we ask, do you believe the oil and gas industry can cut 1/3 of emissions in the next 8 years? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Have your say at www.aptnnews.ca. APTN has a new host of Nouvelles Nationales d'APTN, our French APTN National newscast. We'll introduce you to her when we come back in less than 3 minutes. Starting on the east, St. John's 5, Charlottetown 7. Cartwright 1, Happy Valley Goose Bay 0. Gaspé 5, Saguenay 8. Peterborough 10, Sault Ste. Marie Sun and 9. Wawa 5, Sioux Lookout 2. -10 in Churchill, Puckatawagan 2. 1 in Gimli, Dauphin 7. Regina, Parley Collie and 3, Saskatoon 6. La Ronge 6, Buffalo Narrows 4. Rain in Grand Prairie at 12, Peace River 13. 14 in Calgary, Red Deer 5. Kamloops 12, Bella Coola 10. Sandspit 10, Smithers 0. Beaver Creek -10, Dawson -7. -3 in Wati, Yellowknife -10. Inuvik -19, Palatuk -11. Whale Cove -6, Arvit -5. And Clyde River -13, Arctic Bay -12. You may have noticed a new face on our French show, Nouvelles Nationales d'APTN. Kim Sullivan has recently joined our crew in Montreal to be our new host and reporter. We recently spoke to her, who told us more about her family roots and what she would like to see for the show. Thank you for joining us, Kim. First off, welcome to APTN. We're so happy you have joined us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself to our audience?
Hey, Kristen. Yes, thank you for having me. I'm actually from a very small part of Quebec called Saint-Anne-de-Sorel, and I grew up with a French Quebecer father of Irish ancestry and an Anglo-Inuk mother from Nunatsiavut. So when people ask me if my first language is English or French, think it's both. I'm perfectly bilingual, which is an asset in this province. But despite that, it is my first time working in French, so a little nerve-wracking. I was trained as a teacher for deaf students, but I dreamt of working in broadcasting, and I was able to make that happen when I was hired in radio right here in Montreal. It brought me to Winnipeg and Ottawa, and then back to Montreal. I did some community TV. I worked for 8 years for Global News, and now I'm here.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you. Is there anything that excites you to be joining APTN?
Well, to be honest, working in French is exciting, despite having to shift my mind to thinking in French. That's not easy. But I think what's the most exciting is that my husband and I have 2 little Inuk boys, and I want to be able to give them knowledge of the community that I didn't get much of growing up. So in our household, we were always celebrating being Irish, and I'm actually quite involved in the Irish community in Montreal. I was Irish Woman of the Year last year for a local organization. So I'm kind of hoping to get involved in the Indigenous community as much, and then to be able to give them that part of their culture, our culture, that I didn't really get much of growing up.
What do you hope to bring to Nouvelle Nationale de APTN?
That's a tough question. A new voice, someone who grew up on the outside, kind of wanting to be a bit more on the inside. I'm very passionate about understanding and using the past 20 years of experience to bring it into a field where I can do good. So that's very a passion of mine. I want to bring a touch of warmth as well, because I know that often news can feel a tad cold. I also hope that some of the viewers that got to know me over the past 2 decades will follow me into this journey despite the switch in language, and maybe allow them to start their own conversation and reconciliation process through learning more about the diverse Indigenous communities that we have here in Quebec, because there are so many, and of course the challenges they face. So for me, that's something that I'm hoping Nouvelle will bring to them and will bring to me as well.
I'm asking you the hard questions. You're in the hot seat today. What do you hope audiences will take away from you as our new host of Nouvelle?
That a smile goes a long way, that a conversation is key. If we want the world to understand, we have to start a conversation. We have to maintain that conversation, even if we don't agree with one another. Trust is key, and I hope the audience will trust that I have their best interests at heart, and that I want Nouvelle to represent them and to be their voice. So I know many will see me as the Irish Inuk girl, but I hope that they see me as one of them, and that I'd be able to truly represent them. So that's what's giving me the goosebumps.
Well, hi, thank you so much, Kim. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you on Nouvelle Nationale every Friday.
Nick.
And that's your midday newscast for this Friday, November 8th. Happy Friday and happy long weekend, everyone. If you have Remembrance Day events on Monday, make sure to get out there and support your First Nation and Indigenous veterans. Dennis Ward will be back for your 5 p.m. newscast with more news stories. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, hi, miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. Exe.